Okay, we are recording live on Facebook, and we're also on a Zoom call today. I do apologize. I'm not the best person about switching back and forth for live Zoom and my calls, but I hope you can get the message and can listen and hear some things, no matter where you're at or where you're coming from, or if you're reviewing the information at a later date. So today we're going to be talking about molds and the problems that we are having in our society today. So it's a fairly interesting program. I know I learned a lot, so I hope that that's something that you can connect with also. But before we start that, I wanted to start with a couple of people who had some testimonies. And so today we're going to switch around a little bit and have the testimonies at the beginning for maybe the first, 15, 20 minutes, whatever we need. And so you're welcome to come on and share any type of a testimony. So I know we have Carolyn up and ready. Is that going to work for you, Carolyn? All right.
Yes. Oh, so
you're welcome to start talking if you have anything you'd like to share.
I ordered the WAVwatch, and when it arrived, I put it on that night. So I wore it through the night, and I didn't know until the next night that the pain I'd had from a previous Tarlov's surgery that left a nerve root inflamed, which was extremely painful, was gone. The pain was gone. I've not taken a painkiller since. It's been over a month. I can walk as fast as my husband. I could not walk a quarter of a mile before without everything freezing up. So I'm kind of normal again. I have vitiligo that I'm working on. I am noticing that I normally had a very white round spot on my face, and it's getting darker. I think the cells are growing back. It's the cells that produce your melanin, your melanocytes. I think they're growing back, but that's going to be something I will find out over time. My husband, his hearing is back. And what happened, which was quite amazing, I was talking to a friend about the WAVwatch, and my husband in about 20 minutes said, "You guys are talking way too loud. You're going to have to quiet down." And we were not loud. He could hear. It was funny and marvelous. Just so good. I lend my watch out to the neighbors, and there's all kinds of stories. It's helping so many and giving hope. And there are more things to talk about, but those were the big ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm always thrilled at the ear ones because I think I've told you before that I'm deaf. I'm missing a part in my left ear. I'm completely deaf, and I'm still hoping for miracles, but so far the WAVwatch hasn't helped on that. But we're up to 4 people now that have taken off their hearing aids. So that's very, very interesting. Yes.
So
all right.
Nice.
Anybody else that would like to ask a question or, give a testimony or anything like that?
There is one thing I should add. I put the watch on, this one is quite remarkable. I put the watch on a regeneration bladder, something regeneration, because I'd had that surgery where they hook everything up again or tie everything up. And I went out to eat, and I thought the guy behind me, I thought his cell phone was vibrating because my seat was vibrating, and that there was nobody behind me. And then I thought it was my phone vibrating, and there was nothing on my phone, and it was my body. And that lasted for about a week. And it started around the pelvic floor, and it moved around day by day until it stopped. And most of us are women on the call. I guess it doesn't matter too much, but I had lost the ability to feel that sensation of urinating, and it's back. So I think it did something down there, but it started with a vibration. It's just the oddest thing. I vibrated in different places around the pelvic floor for about a week. Don't know.
Whoa.
Sounds like nerves. It seems like maybe nerves regenerating.
Our body's talking to us, maybe in different ways. And just to go along with that a little bit, Bruce Lipton, who's a physicist, one of his quotes just astounds me. You know, he's basically saying that frequencies go through our body faster than the speed of sound, and they're 100% absorbed. And there are about 70 different receptors that start to vibrate inside each and every cell. And then they just, you know, vibrate throughout the body. But when we take a drug, a prescription, or other things, they do go through our body also in a wave form, in a very amazing way, but they go slow. They go a foot a second, and the body heat actually destroys them, and only 2% of our prescriptions and things like that are absorbed. So I think that's amazing. So maybe some of that vibration is what you were feeling, Carolyn. Do not know, but any other testimonies or questions? I do have an announcement, but I'll answer, or I'll mention that after, unless somebody doesn't have any other additions or anything else to say. Okay, we do have a question. Somebody was asking how to get the WAVwatch repaired, and I am getting ready to put a spot up on the WAVwatch site where you can click, and I have 4 or 5 people around the US now that are offering to do that. So we do have some batteries that are lasting at least 20 hours now that can be replaced if your battery gets low. And so those are available. And then you can get those updated. I have just a few more frequencies once in a while, you know, and that will be available. And I also have some small screen protectors that are now available. And so those would be some things that you could watch for on the website. But the most important thing, this is not going to affect a lot of you, but I have been sold out. And so many of you were asking for, you know, when am I going to have new product in? I have received the shipping, you know, manifest and the tracking number, but it still doesn't tell me where it's at or the exact day that it arrives. And it actually is from China. Sometimes I've mentioned that, and sometimes I just say, you know, it's overseas. And I want to tell you that I'm working to get it made in America. I would very much love that, but it's a little bit embarrassing because I do have a prototype designer who works all over the US with people. He works in Korea, he works in China, and that's what his job is to help, you know, work with some new products. And there actually was a company about 30 miles from me, which he said was one of the premier sites in America that could possibly do this project. And he had talked to a couple others in America and eliminated them. But I went and personally visited a place in Independence, Missouri. And again, I said it was a little bit embarrassing because they said my watch was too complicated, and they didn't know if they could put frequencies on with a clock or with a timer. They also told me that for sure I would only be able to use 4 letters to describe my 850 ideas. Can you imagine, you know? Oh, and then I forgot the big part. Then they wanted a check for $1 million to get started. So, you know, I'm not thrilled that I have to get them shipped from overseas, but I'm thrilled that I made the choice to be able to help you, to help people. And that was the most important part, you know. So that's where we're going with that. Okay, any comments? Would anybody like to add anything or ask any questions?
Hey, Linda, it's Joan.
Yes.
And I use it every day. I use it for eye inflammation. I use it for inflammation. I use it for digestion. I even pulled out my rib cage carrying a kayak, and you have a thing under pain for rib cage, under joints. and it helped with the rib cage problem. So I just find this whole thing amazing. And again, I use it every day.
That's a good one. I did have a gentleman call that had tried it, you know, for rib pain, and it hadn't helped him. And I said, well, then you need to go and have your ribs put in, you know, if this didn't help, that's all I know to do. And so he's on that, you know, he hadn't been told to do that before, hadn't thought about it. But, you know, sometimes we need other things. We need additional things. We should always work with a variety of things. All right. Any other comments? Yes.
I was going to ask you, was your announcement to say that your new shipment that's coming in is already sold out?
No, that
Oh.
is just coming in. Yes. And
Okay.
I'll have about 2,000 of them. So,
Yay, okay.
so, but do pass the word around because I am scheduled to be on another show, a truther type show. And that's what caused it. I mean, they sold out very quickly, so that was very, very interesting. There is an interest in people taking care of themselves.
Linda,
Yes.
what is the technical question? What is the frequency range of the speaker on the watch?
It's acoustical range. It's going to be 20 to 20,000. But of course, in any type of a speaker, it's going to be a little weak on the low end and the high end, So I don't use a lot of those frequencies that I know could be varied a little bit. I stay within about the 40 to 19,000, something like that.
There have been studies with light generated at a frequency of 40 hertz that helps the brain, people with dementia, people with Alzheimer's. Do you know if sound, has there been any experimentation with sound at that frequency on the brain?
Yes, and that is the gamma brainwave that is on the WAVwatch. And I think I have a slide or two on this somewhere that's saying that they did the experiment with Alzheimer's and mice with the lights. And then when they added the same frequency, a sound frequency, that the Alzheimer's improved dramatically with the addition of sound.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Linda. This is
Sure.
Betty. How are you? I just logged on. Did you say that your order is in or you don't have them yet?
I don't have the exact date, but it is being in the shipping process. So I'm hoping for next Monday or Tuesday. That's
Okay,
all I
great.
can tell you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to add that there is a site that sells the 40 hertz lights and sound, and I've read some of their research, and in fact, the cognitive functions increase dramatically if you use both the 40 hertz light and the sound together. So it's out there. I've seen the research. I've read the research. In fact, we have the 40 hertz light, but we already have the sound, so I didn't go with the sound.
Hey, great. All right, I think I'm going to click a button and share my screen with you. I'm not sure if I'll be seen on it. Sometimes my computer's a little weird and you can see me talking, and other times you're just going to hear me. But I think this is some fascinating information today because so many things are changing, and we are going to be talking about different molds and how they can affect us, especially after the COVID-19 problem. So here we go. So I just kind of wanted to share with you about fungal infections and recovering today, because more and more we are seeing people with long haul COVID. We're seeing all kinds of problems and situations. And I think that there is a fungal infection connection that we're really not being told about. But before we kick this in big time, don't forget to share with your friends about the WAVwatch and the WAVwatch Frequency Fanatics that's available on the on Facebook. You do have to sign up. It is a private group, but WAVwatch Frequency Fanatics, and then you can go anytime and see some of those ideas. I have a disclaimer, obviously, and don't forget that we do use names that quote unquote sound medical, but we had to use them so that we can describe the frequency that you might choose to use. We are not diagnosing anything. You are using a self-care product. And so we're trying to encourage you to maintain or reduce impact to some health problems. And so this is what my Zoom call is all about, is education. And I know we have a couple of guys on here, but, obviously I love to teach, and women have been very, very put down with their abilities and their sense of working with people. And I do have a quote, and again, I'm having a hard time thinking of the doctor's name right off the top of my head, but it sticks with me. They have said that in the medieval times that 5 to 6 million women, over a 500-year period, were actually put to death because they were trying to share self-care ideas. That's what we're talking about. They were sharing self-care. They were telling people about herbs. They were telling people about, ways to work with their health. And all of those women are gone. They were eliminated. And so we have lost our information about caring for ourselves. So that's what I'm here to do for, my idea with the WAVwatch. I think this is my contribution. So here we go. So what I think is so important today is that we're hearing all these side effects. We're hearing that maybe cancers increase, that lung problems, we have long haul COVID, and the ideas go on and on from problems that are in our society today that we have not seen before. And so a new study is showing that COVID-19 destroys our natural immunity that we might have had. So influenza and COVID-19 destroy this natural immunity. And these findings were published in the Science Translational Medicine. And it shows that 2 types of white blood cells, the neutrophils and a type of a unique B cells, normally work together to fight these fungal infections. But now the SARS-CoV-2, the influenza, variations, we don't know exactly what it is, but they cause a problem with these special B cells doing their job. So what can we do? How can we improve? What can we do to make sure that everybody is, I'm clicking some buttons here, there we go, that everybody is aware that we need to be paying more attention to maybe fungal infections, because they are masquerading. They are going to seem similar to maybe having COVID. So I tried to find some images of an aspergillus mold, which is what they are most concerned about. And gosh, I hate to say they're beautiful. I was just totally blown away with all the images that they've taken of this mold. And these images are pretty easy to take because these molds are everywhere. They're on grains, they're on leaves, they're in the air, they're on our clothes, they're on our animals. So the list goes on and on of aspergillus molds. And so these are some pictures of them basically that I thought were just worth sharing with you. So the CDC, there's always some ups and downs on the CDC, but the COVID-19 associated fungal infections can lead to severe illness and death. And they had cited, if you go to this site, you'll see some of the studies there. There were, looks like 8 studies at least that were showing that fungal infections associated with COVID are very, very dangerous. And these fungal diseases can be similar to the COVID. So you may have a fever and a cough and shortness of breath. And then some people are having both. They're having COVID and a fungal infection at the same time. So I just want everybody to be aware of this. And so many people come in and we have no idea how easy it is to pick up a mold. So here's another, just a quote. Even healthy people can pick this up. We don't have to have had an influenza or a virus or having help us a shot. We don't even know the connection with that, although a lot of us are guessers and can, take a guess at that, at some of the problems that even having that could cause. So they can increase the risk of this aspergillus infection. So right off on our WAVwatch, we have a whole folder. It is in the germ folder. And we have candida, mold, and fungus. So all of these would be something that you can play. You know, if you're outside in the raking leaves, man, I can feel that. I can tell that the leaves really do bother me. So, you know, you come back inside, a great idea is to play through the mold and fungus folder. So again, the combos are going to be longer so that you can actually click them and make them loop. Now, I think I've gone over this, but it doesn't mean everybody has been on every program. So I apologize if I'm boring some people, but the mold, excuse me, the candida and the fungus and mold combos, both of those are going to be longer. I've forgotten exactly what they are, if they're an hour or 45 minutes, whatever, they're a little bit longer. And so what they do is include everything that's below on the list. So the Candida combo is going to include Candida 1, 2, 3, 4, Candida, detox and lymphs, you know, that kind of thing. The fungus and mold combo will also include mostly the detox and lymphs, detox, fungus, and molds. So there are ways that you can loop that if you'd like to all night long, simply by using the combo selection. I think it's really amazing that we haven't had this drawn to our attention before, but the Aspergillus mold is so common that we breathe in thousands of spores every day. And I showed you some pictures of those spores. There's several hundred kinds of molds. And again, the whole idea of this program is that we may be confusing some of our problems, especially fever, cough, shortness of breath. We might be thinking that it is COVID when it could be a fungal problem that has actually been started or spurred on because of connections. So we do have an Aspergillus sinusitis. So these are symptoms of this particular one. So it's stuffiness, runny nose, headache, and the reduced ability to smell. So we could play the sinus combo. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but at least if we have an idea that we have a sinus problem, you're going to play through all of that. Plus, I would go back to the mold folder and play that also. But again, these are the symptoms of this particular mold, and it's named Aspergillus sinusitis. So we know we can have molds that are causing this. So by the same token, we can have brain problems. So we've lost our sense of smell. So there are a couple of ideas in there. And we are really connecting our loss of smell with COVID. So many of us will say, oh, you know I had COVID because I lost my sense of smell. Well, here is another idea that a mold actually causes a problem with sense of smell. Isn't that amazing? And we could also be having headaches. And so here's a whole folder, obviously on the WAVwatch for headaches. So we have plenty of things that we could play. Some people like muscle testing, and some people like just knowing that they can go to a certain area. And you've, seen it on this screen maybe. And so you might decide in the middle of the day that you have a headache, you're having sinus problems, and these are some things you could play. Either way, it works really well. I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm hoping and assuming everybody can see and hear the screen, and somebody will let me know if they can't. But we also have asthma connections with the COVID, but mostly we have it with this new Aspergillus that has been around forever, but our bodies seem more prone to it now because our natural immunity for molds does seem to be messed up. So we have asthma combo, we have asthma 1, 2, and respiratory hypersensitive. We have anaphylaxis. I guess I didn't get it copied on that one. But so this is from a bronchopulmonary aspergillus, and it could cause these problems: wheezing, shortness of breath, cough, and fever. Don't these sound like what they tell us COVID is? So a couple more ideas. Maybe we've just gotten a mold, or maybe we need to be playing the viruses from COVID, plus go over to the asthma and to the mold section and play that. Very important to think about that. So other people have fungus balls, seriously. I have heard that described when somebody said that they had COVID. Have we been led down a different path? Maybe we are having so much more trouble with the aspergillus mold. So we have cough lingering, we have cough, and we have coughing. Now, I had a testimony for cough lingering. It really was before COVID, so I didn't put it on, but somebody that I know in Colorado had been coughing for 2 years, and she said it was really the same time every day, and she basically put on the cough lingering, and, in one time it was gone and never came back. So I'm hoping if somebody has some coughing, possibly from a mold or from something else, that it will work just as well for you. But again, no guarantees. They say frequencies work in about 70% of the time for working with your self-care. And then one new thing that I thought I should start telling people, somebody says, well, how many frequencies do you have on the WAVwatch? And I advertise 850, but the frequencies for the emotions are basically one frequency. So, if I subtract those out and do some multiplication, some of the other frequencies have about 30 individual frequencies inside that set. So if you do some multiplication, I've got around 24,000 frequencies on that little watch. So that's why we have songs. That's why they make a song. And that's why everyone has a different sound. I mean, some of them even have a little bit of a beat, and some of them sound really like you think the speaker isn't working well, it's going, but all you have to do is just touch to make it go to the next frequency set, and you'll see that sound changes completely. So if it doesn't change completely, there is a problem. But if you touch a couple of them in a row and listen to them, the sounds are very unique. And that's because they have 30 different frequency sets in most of them, not all of them. But again, multiply that out a little bit, we have almost 24,000 frequencies on the WAVwatch. So we can also have some more problems. There are more and more people who are getting valley fever and histoplasmosis, and that may be a little bit more because of where they live, and that tends to be in the drier areas. But, we travel all over today, and so many things move. I'm not sure that would be the exact idea. It may change. It may not be just related to areas that you live in. So again, you can have pulmonary aspergillus, weight loss, cough, coughing of blood, fatigue, shortness of breath. In the same way with an invasive aspergillus that's in the lungs. So we've got fever, chest pain, cough, coughing up blood, shortness of breath. Does this sound like anything that we've been talking about for the last 2.5 years? I don't know. I just wanted to let you know that there's definitely a connection. So if you're really having some lung problems, if you're worried, if you also want to be preventive, we've got a whole folder for lungs. So I would be playing some of those also. Now, if you are a muscle tester, which I've had a couple programs on muscle testing, so you could muscle test and see if there's one in there that really is working for you. And if you wanted to loop that one. or you can simply be preventive and play through all 16 of those ideas. It does not hurt you to do any of those. And again, the acute respiratory combo would be one that you could loop all night long. I felt I had to cover this. I'm not sure that I can tell you as much about this. This is not my area. But some of the medications that they're giving us, now this comes from the CDC, they are saying that they increase the risk of these fungal infections. So if you're on any kind of corticosteroids for arthritis, asthma, allergies, autoimmune diseases such as lupus or IBS, you could be at risk for having a fungal infection. And then they have also TNF inhibitors that are more for rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis and the IBS again. And those two classes of medications, prescriptions are known. I mean, it's in writing that they increase our risk of fungal infections. So here's some names of some of these, and I don't know if any of you, I'm going to leave this up for a little bit, and I hope it's something that you can see if you need to. Maybe you could snap a picture of it. But these prescriptions come in so many different forms. But basically, if you are taking any kind of prescriptions or medication that fall in those two categories, you should be more aware of fungal infections. So there's two classes of the corticosteroids. So we have an oral, we have inhaled. I saw some things that, you could put on your skin. There's all kinds of steroid that could be problematic. Please maybe mute yourself. I can hear maybe a little bit of scratching, but hopefully everybody can hear and it's not a problem. Then the TNF inhibitors, I certainly am not familiar with all of those. I am not a medication person. So please take a snapshot if you need that, or you can look up the medications, the corticosteroids, if you need to, that could be causing problems. So if you are taking any of those, I would definitely be trying to work with molds and fungus and make sure that you are covering the basis for protecting yourself or others around you. So I hope I've given enough time if anybody needed to take a snapshot of that, and it will be online, obviously. Now we're coming to the biggest part. They're not telling us a lot. We know they don't. And it's hard sometimes to know which way to go, which information to read, which information to believe, how much research to do, and the list goes on and on. But this folder is on the WAVwatch, and it's called Pathogen. And it does have the pink ribbon symbol. This is the only folder I did put on the WAVwatch that has a few cancer ideas in it. Again, I'm not trying to get myself into trouble. I am not trying to make this a watch that quote unquote does anything. You are using it for self-care. So the closest I could get to protecting you a little bit with this simple tool is this particular folder here. And I can prove that all of these pathogens, whether they're a virus, a mold, a parasite, that type of thing, these are all definitively connected with cancer. So you'll see that an Aspergillus mold and the aflatoxins are the two that they know do cause mold. And so these are represented in the pathogen folder. Now, I suggest people play these, maybe once a week if you can, and try to be protecting yourself. But if you've got a lot of the symptoms that we keep coming up and you think you might have COVID-19 or you're long haul COVID, or you've been exposed to somebody, or you've been around somebody with shot and you're worried about shedding, all kinds of different ideas. there isn't a reason why you couldn't play this whole pathogen folder and then loop the aspergillus and the aflatoxin folders. So make sure that you are protecting yourself on these. Okay, very, very important. They're not telling us. So I don't think I made a big slide out of it, but we are hearing of more and more cancer connections in this time period, that cancer seems to be going crazy. And, you know, here we have maybe our immune system's down. We have the knowledge with a couple studies that show that the COVID-19 is definitely weakening our immune system so that we don't recognize fungal infections anymore, and our body doesn't fight those B cells, or doesn't use the B cells to fight the fungal infections. And now all of a sudden we have more and more people, and cancer is just popping up everywhere. It does seem like that in my circle. I don't know if it is in yours or what you've read about it, but I am concerned of the increased cancer risk. And I was just told that the other day with my own mom, that her breast cancer from 16 years ago came back in a year. She's been free again, and she is in assisted living, or excuse me, memory care. And wow, she's had several shots, and now all of a sudden she has the breast problem again. So we're hearing that time and time again. And can it be this mold problem that is definitively going out of control? So please be aware of this and try to work with those particular ideas. Now, these are some other things you can do. I found some foods, or some olive leaf extract isn't necessarily in the food category, but they are known to fight the aspergillus mold. So garlic is one of the most prominent, and olive leaf was definitively connected with the ability to kill the aspergillus. And then coconut oil was also very, very good. And this one even states that it flushes the dead mold out of the body. So huge, very huge for us to know. So those are a few more things that you could add into your protection program for fungal problems that seem to be cropping up all over today. Let me see if I've got another slide here. So I did find another idea, 11 best essential oils for molds, and there could be more, but they basically listed clove and lemongrass as being the two best ones for aspergillus. So then behind those was lavender, tea tree oil, cassia, cinnamon bark, thyme, geranium, oregano, manuka, and rose geranium. So you could use some essential oils plus the WAVwatch. We've got to be using everything. It's very, very important. And then to go back a slide, we need to be being a little bit more careful, you know. So we're going to be avoiding a lot of areas with dust, dust storms. Seems kind of normal to stay inside when there's a dust storm going on. I was raised on the plains, and we had lots of dust storms. And we even, you know, went through a period when I was in middle school where we actually had to put sheets and towels over our windows to catch the dust. So I don't live there anymore, but please, you know, if you're in a dust storm, stay inside. Stay away from bird droppings, you know, places like chicken coops and caves. Those can be very mold connected, obviously. And if you decide to do that, I went into a cave at Christmas time. It was a fun trip. All I had to do was run the mold combo after I got out of that. Start wearing gloves more and more. I think I'm a little bit lax on that sometimes I do not do that when I'm, you know, out in the soil, but there are lots of things in the soil nowadays. Wear shoes, long pants, and a long sleeve shirt. You know, we don't do that. a lot of times we see so many people out gardening and they're, we want to get our sun, so where is the balance of, do we have a long sleeve shirt, a short sleeve shirt, so we get sun? That's a hard one. So I think we need to start sun tanning some more. I like that idea. And when we work with more clothes on so that we are not picking up some of those molds. Very important. Okay, and then this is kind of starting a different idea, but I'm closing out here. And I'm hoping that a lot of you have been able to see this information. There is a video on Died Suddenly, and there's pros and cons to it, but just wanted to refresh your memory that so many of these ideas really can be connected back to molds. So the Aspergillus mold is in our lungs. It's everywhere. We don't see it. We don't know about it necessarily, and our doctors aren't testing us for it. So we want to stay out of this statistic. And I think one of the best ways that we can do that is to learn. And so I thank all of you for coming on this program today. And hopefully you can share it and get the word out that more and more of our problems today could be because of compromised immune systems that are so connected with mold at this point in time. And these molds are dangerous, especially the Aspergillus. They can be life-threatening, even in a person who has a good immune system. That is the biggest thing that they were telling us. That you don't have to have a compromised immune system. You could be, your immune system could be working well and functioning supposedly, but all of a sudden there could be some problems with this mold overtaking your body. So I think I'm done here, and I've talked and talked, but I just wanted to again say thank you for joining. So we still do have a few minutes. That went faster than I thought. Any questions or anything that I could share with you, or anything I might have missed, or any testimonies as more and more people got on? We have
Hey,
just a few
Linda?
minutes. Yes.
This is Shafia on Ralph's computer.
Okay.
I just want to say that I have been treating mold and looking for mold in my clients, and the organic acid test from Great Plains is a way to look for whether we have been colonized by Aspergillus. But if you have a WAVwatch, just run the program. But if you want a diagnosis, get the oak test. The other two things are that I'm really glad the WAVwatch has no EMFs in it, because Wi-Fi makes mold grow more and faster. And I had a client who lived in an old stone farmhouse, and everything was fine until they started spraying the field next door with glyphosate, and the glyphosate increased the mold. And so people have to be aware of multiple layers of toxins, and also how Wi-Fi increases the growth of mold. And I just wanted to make those comments. So turn your Wi-Fi off at night if you have it. Your house isn't hardwired. So that's what I wanted to share.
Oh, thank you so much, Sophia. And we have, some expertise here from a medical doctor. So listen very carefully. Not very many medical doctors are going to share some common sense ideas with you. And I really appreciate that, Sophia.
What was the name of that test that she recommended?
The Great Plains, is that correct?
It's Great Plains Organic Acid Test. It's called OAT, OAT for short.
Okay.
And it's has a lot of information, but will show markers if Aspergillus is actually colonized in your body.
Thank you.
Wow. And one comment I did want to add is I've picked this statistic up somewhere, and I've been saying it for years, so it may be worse now, but at one point in time, they were saying that the EMFs increased all of our pathogens by 800%. The growth was 800% more with EMFs. So, and that I've been saying that for 10 or 12 years. So I don't know what the statistic might be now.
Linda,
Yes.
I just wanted to mention a lot of my clients now are complaining about toenail fungus. And could this be the reason the exposure to COVID is causing an outbreak of toenail fungus? Not that it hasn't been around, but it just seems like everyone started to complain about it here in the last year or two. And the frequencies, do you want to go over the frequencies on the watch for toenail fungus specifically?
Sure, I don't have them listed, but all you'd have to do is go to self-care, and then there's a whole folder for toenail fungus, that type of thing. And I guess I hadn't heard that, Libby, so that's great information. It kind of makes sense. I mean, we're just exposed to more and more molds, you know? So,
Yeah.
and I am hearing some people that are going swimming more, you know, I mean, you're going to have molds do not die in the water like they want us to believe. So we're picking up everything. I mean, they try, you know, but there are some problems with some of the things that we do, and we could be picking up molds or just in the air, gardening. Who knows where we get those from?
I just see it listed more on the intake forms when people come in listing out their medical issues. That just seems to be cropping up more. And it was just interesting to me. And I never thought about it until you brought it up today about COVID. So interesting comment.
Perfect comment. And Libby is the Bras thermography person in Springfield, Missouri. So give her a call if you need some support down there. Let's see, I think I saw Doug flash across the screen.
Linda,
you
can I
still-
ask?
Oh, sure.
Oh, this is Deborah. Hi, I just had a question for you about digestion.
Sure.
I know you have digestive disorders. I was wondering if it covered this. I don't have gastric reflux or anything like that, but I know from when I was young, I'm 65, 68, that I don't produce HCl, hydrochloric acid. And as I get older, I'm having more of a problem with bloating after eating and everything. Would digestive disorders include something like that to help digestion?
Some of them might be labeled just generically like intestinal diseases, intestinal problems. I would try all of those to see if you have
Okay.
any support, you know.
Okay. Digestive enzymes don't work really because, and I was told because I don't have the acid to help them to work or something. So anyway, all right, just try in general then. There's nothing specific.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know what I would suggest for that is actually more salt, natural salt, a Himalayan, a Celtic, or a real salt.
Okay.
Seriously, salt does change the acidic numbers in your body. So
Okay.
people have less digestive problems with more salt. They have less problems with gluten sensitivity. And all that is because salt and the 80 minerals in those different kinds of salt helps set your acid level, which is different in your stomach, and you need salt.
Okay, thank you. And I have increased somewhat, but I'll try that even more. Do I need to increase potassium if I'm doing more salt, or is that like in those natural salts, potassium is part of the profile?
Potassium is part of the profile, and it's balanced better. You know, I mean, that's God's natural balance. He put
Okay.
those minerals in natural balance for us. So I really try to get people to consider that. And, you know, who's going to take 80 different minerals, you know?
Right.
And if we don't have enough minerals, our enzymes are not going to work. Our amino acids don't kick off. Everything is dependent on those minerals. Huge.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mhm. Any other ideas?
Yeah, this is Janie.
Yes,
And I have a question about multiple myeloma. Do you have anything for that, or?
I
on
do
your-
not. You know, literally there are thousands of frequencies for different things, and, you know, I can get 24,000 frequencies on here, I guess, but
It isn't
you know,
related
different
to
ways.
mold or anything like that then, is it? Or, I mean,
I studied it. I don't know. Does anybody else know? Glad for some updated information if anybody else knows.
the reason I'm asking, because I'm just now getting a biofeedback done and it mentions that on there. Not for me, but for, you know who.
Yeah,
So,
and if you have biofeedback, they should have a frequency for that so that you can actually be working on it very specifically.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Linda, it's Barb Sunstang. I have a totally unrelated question to mold, but I have had an eye sty on my eyelid, and I've been running different frequencies, and it's lessened, but it's not totally gone away. Is there a suggestion to run something for an eye sty?
So I'm assuming you've run the eye frequencies. You could have some bacteria in there. We don't know it. There's a possibility it could be mold. I don't get that. I'm muscle testing for you, Barbara. I don't necessarily get that. I actually get bacteria just from a quick muscle test, saying your name. I don't know if anybody remembers this. You can put somebody's name in your mind, and you can muscle test for a specific idea. So I get you might have some bacteria. So you might run that through. I'm not getting parasites or viruses, molds. I'm getting bacteria. So I was just doing kind of a click.
Sty too is a tea bag, organic black tea bag. Put it on it, and it'll usually take it away.
Love that.
I'll try it all.
It really does work good. And I just have a quick question, Linda. I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm going to start doing a water fast starting this Friday. And do you suggest anything special as far as frequencies while I'm doing the fast?
Oh, wow. I don't know that I can.
Okay,
I would say maybe immune support, overall, or the vagus nerve. That'd be the easiest one.
Oh,
that's overall.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks.
You might loop that one.
Okay.
So give us a report on that, how that goes.
I will. I'm hoping it'll help I have orthostatic tremors, and I'm hoping, and I've tried everything, but I'm hoping that will maybe help.
And maybe take some minerals during that fast. I don't know what they tell you or not, but
just
they say no on that.
No, I can't.
Okay. All right. I think I mentioned this before, but I'm such a mineral person. I used to teach gifted education, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade years ago. And you always had to find something to tell them that would really keep their interest, And one little tidbit I found, for some reason, we were talking about salt and how they fought wars over salt and, blah, blah, blah. And so when they, one civilization conquered another, they got their salt back. But also, they really cut the heads off of people and drank the blood. And so I'm looking at these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders and going, why'd they do that? And of course, they all knew to get the salt, Mrs. Bamber. They were so deprived of salt during that war. That's what they did it for. So I'll never forget that little example of how important it is. And the reason they were fighting those wars over salt, they knew how important it was, and one civilization would, fight the other one, take their salt away, or, close the route off, or, whatever it was. But they knew that their population would have more trouble with their brain. They went crazy. Their population literally went crazy without salt. So whether we would describe it today as dementia or, schizophrenia or Alzheimer's, whatever our labels are, they called it, going crazy back then. So don't forget the importance of salt. Read all about it if you haven't done that yet. All right. Other ideas.
For older women, the red mint salt. Redmond salt is the best one for women.
Usually that is.
It's a great one for men. Also, I have a salt lamp in every corner of my house.
Perfect.
I do love salt.
You got it. All right. We're kind of winding down. Any other questions or additions or testimonies?
I have a question.
Sure.
In the last Zoom, someone was asking about itching. And someone in the Zoom joined in and said, oh, that's related to the liver. I haven't ever heard that before. Do you know what frequency would help the itching if it's related to the liver?
I would play all of them, unless you get a muscle test, but clean the liver out, make sure you're detoxing, and go through all of the detox folders. And then in the some of the newer watches, I'm not sure when you purchase yours, but I did add a frequency for hives. I don't know if that's connected enough with what you're thinking, but in the allergy folder, there is a new edition on hives, a hives detox.
Yes, mine has that. I'll try that. Thank you.
Linda,
Yes. Yes.
this is Brenda. You have several comments in the chat. I didn't know if you were looking at your chat at all.
I actually am not. I dropped my glasses.
Oh, no.
See here. Okay, now I'm embarrassed and I got them. Okay, so I'll see if I can answer any of those. Whoops. And they disappeared. Oh, how fun. Okay. Well. Yeah, isn't that fun?
You lose your chat.
I lost my chat.
At the bottom of your screen and click on chat and it should bring them back up.
Bottom of my screen. There it is. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Libby. Itching.
That was
Okay,
my
someone
question.
said-
You answered it.
Okay, and apple cider vinegar also helps increase the hydrochloric acid, and that's basically because it has 20 some minerals in it. Okay, and then have I seen a connection with mold and prostate issues? And I would say definitely, and also in women. Don't forget that those molds, we know specifically that aspergillus and aflatoxins are connected to cancer, and it could be anywhere in your body. Okay.
We have Max.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Doug. Did somebody have a comment? Okay, somebody is asking about the autonomic nervous system and they have dystonia. I actually have a frequency for dystonia in the nerve folder. And so you might try playing more than one nerve idea, not just the one that is labeled that way. And so that would be something that could be very, very helpful for you. And somebody else made a comment. Yeah, I remember taking a gold wedding band and rubbing it across your eye for styes also. And gee, I'd like somebody to maybe mention, I don't know if gold is antibacterial or anything like that, but I know that silver is. If you have a silver ring, that's antibacterial. It works with different things. So silver would be a very good idea on a ring too, but gold has been the one that is mentioned. I remember that from my childhood days. Okay, unless anybody has any other comments, I think we're winding down. Anything else?
I have a
anybody wants to- Sure.
I have a,
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ann.
so I found the aspergillus mold thing, but where's all those other molds? What are they in or under?
Germs.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So there's a whole folder for candida and all kinds of germs. So lots more candida infections now, but huge problem. Definitely a huge problem.
Yeah, Linda.
Yes.
This is Janie, and I once went to a doctor because I had the same problem with HCl, not having any, and he told me that B12 makes hydrochloric acid. So
okay,
like you might try a little bit of that, maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But mine has corrected since I've used the watch so much. I don't know what fixed it. I guess just general use of the watch is all I can say.
Perfect. And don't forget that even if you're taking B12, if you don't have the minerals, your body can't absorb the B12 correctly. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And your body's even known, I can't just, recite offhand, but if it's missing a vitamin, your body can even become a parasite and borrow different things from different areas of your body to support another area of your body. So minerals are the basis of everything. And I think somebody wrote that in there too. So great. Okay.
Linda.
Yes.
This is Patrick. The colloidal silver works great on styes, and that ties in with your gold silver, but that goes directly in and it'll disappear really quickly. The other thing I wanted to say is that most people have plenty of calcium, and you got to be careful if you start taking calcium. You're overloading your system, and this causes problems. But this is proven when people start taking salt, and magnesium, their mineral balance increases tremendously. But if you're taking a lot of calcium because you think you have arthritis or whatever, it's creating other problems, and especially a heart problem. So caution on that. And another comment, you're totally correct on women being persecuted as far as witches and back to the Salem witch trials in this country, but in Africa, still today they kill women for helping people, and the feminine energy is being very persecuted. Okay, and still today, and not just there, Afghanistan, of course. And anyway, but the other thing I want to mention to everybody, because most of the problems that we're facing are caused by garbage in the system. And especially with Alzheimer's and these brain type problems, you need something that crosses the blood-brain barrier, okay, to get this stuff out. And I encourage everybody to learn about chelation therapy. I've got a story, a man who went to the best doctors out here in California, and they basically told his wife to just take him home and it's over, okay? And she got some ideas on detoxing, and when she did, she got him back, okay? And they had money, and they went to the IV form, which is an aggressive chelation therapy, but EDTA is pretty amazing stuff, and it's kind of related to apple cider vinegar in a stronger form, I guess. But it pulls this crap out of your system, and the people that have been injected with whatever, and I've seen my friends suffer from this. But if you get into this stuff, you'll find that the EDTA is one of the best things, and I look for them to start shutting that down.
Wow.
Anyway, that's all I got to say.
Do you know the mineral content of the EDTA, Patrick?
No, it's very hard to get information about using it, and especially because there was there was a guy that had a website about using EDTA. I forget his name, but he was they shut him down. But he was selling you can take it orally, and orally does work, but it's very hard to find what the dosage is, and that type of thing. It's not quite as effective. There's another one of the frontline doctors is using it over on the skin, using it transdermally, EDTA, and I don't know what he's mixing it with.
Okay.
But he says that's far more effective than orally. But if you got the money, the IV chelation is pretty amazing, and 5 treatments, you could see a huge improvement on people. And there's other things, of course, you can do with the baths and pulling stuff out with the bath, especially like hives and stuff like this, maybe baking soda and some, a couple other things that would be very easy to do, very helpful. But also MSM is terrific. And anyway, that's all I got, I guess.
Well spoken. And here again, you're saying you hear EDTA may be phased out or whatever. So again, I'm going to get on my high horse about minerals, because the certain minerals from the natural salt will connect with toxins, and they open up your lymph nodes and allow that to be sloughed out of your body or detox from your body. So salt is a natural detox if we take more of it. I've got one more example on salt that I really need to share with you, because so many people are saying, oh, my doctor says, or they tell you not to take salt. And I would, if you have high blood pressure, that's dangerous. Don't take any salt. And I'm going, yes, it is dangerous to take the white salt that causes your high blood pressure. And I had a young man who came to me from Washington, D.C. I had a little bit of a history with his family. I had screened him and worked with him. He was in the military, and his wife and his 4 children and his parents, and he moved from the Leavenworth area to Washington, D.C. and was working, higher up, and started having trouble with his blood pressure. So he doctored for 6 months and couldn't get his blood pressure down. And he had a mission that he wanted to go on, and he couldn't go on it with the blood pressure problem. So he came to, from Washington, D.C., he came to Kansas City, or he was here visiting his parents, really is what it was, and had a session. And what we decided to do for him that would work the best was salt. And I'm not sure which one he tested for. I believe it was probably the Celtic. It might have been, one of the others. But his blood pressure balanced out with the right kind of salt. So he's a traveler, and the mission that he wanted to go on and that he was able to go on, I hope some of you will be encouraged by this. It was with President Trump when in 2017, when he went to Korea. That my young man, salt saved the day. How's that for a story? So don't forget that white salt is bad for your blood pressure. The correct salt with 80 minerals is not. Any other comments?
Just, Linda, I do agree with the salt too. I found, Malone, Dr. Malone's, he has a formula too with it, and I find it helps a lot. And the EDTA, years ago, I did 15 months of the IVs once a month. And then every 5, I had to get Amara's cocktails because the EDTA does drain your body of the necessary minerals. But it did not help me, so that's why I'm trying the fast now.
Okay. Interesting.
So, everything different works for somebody different. You just have to figure out what works for you.
As I mentioned, just on the side, EDTA is calcium disodium, which I really didn't know. And it's a formula relating to amino acid and chelating agent that binds and removes heavy metals like lead, arsenic, cadmium from the body. Perfect, Brenda. Thank you. Another comment. Somebody was starting to say something.
Are there any frequencies that you shouldn't do overnight? And if you do it overnight, should you do a lower volume because it's an extended period of time?
I always say to have the volume at 4 where you can't hear it anyway. I do have one gentleman who thought he played it all night long. It was the very first night or day that he got his WAVwatch, and he said he played it all night long for tinnitus, and it did irritate his tinnitus. Tinnitus is a really touchy thing. So I would say that people that have been helped by the WAVwatch on tinnitus is maybe only 50%. But other things, I'm thinking 70%, and the kidney stone improvements has been way up in the 99%, so there are different things. And that's the only one I've really heard. And there is a note on the side view in Kansas City area, McDonough Medical Center does IV chelation therapy. So. Perfect. We need to know all of that.
Linda, it's Patrick again.
Yes.
The EDTA will pull minerals out of the body. So you do need to take, salt and magnesium and various other ones. But the other thing is that if you've got parasites, the EDTA won't affect that whatsoever. And same with the mold and fungus. So you have to address parasites. And most of these people with autoimmune, very high percentage have parasites. So it's not going to get better until you eliminate that. And it's not easy to eliminate parasites, okay? Everybody who looks into this will tell you that it can take months sometimes. And I just wanted to say that.
Perfect. And so I'll just throw this in too. Parasites actually bind with heavy metals, and then they will release them. And I use homeopathics for killing parasites. And 15 some years ago, I had 3 or 4 people, it seemed like it was gentlemen, that after they took a homeopathic for parasites, they got really itchy. And they came back to my office and got retested. And then we could see all of these heavy metals that were released when the parasites died off. So you're exactly right about that. You know, that does make a connection there. And then the other thing, you mentioned that it takes months to get rid of parasites. And that's what I thought before the WAVwatch came. I don't have any medical, or double-blind study on it necessarily, but I tested 100 people on my biomeridian system, and it actually prioritizes information out of 50,000 frequencies. And for 100 people, 42 of them, their worst problem was parasites. And I was developing the WAVwatch. They wore the WAVwatch for 30 minutes. And I did teach them to muscle test, and I taught them, and they picked out a parasite, product, and we set it aside. And then they wore the WAVwatch for 30 minutes, the prototype. And in 30 minutes, when they retested the homeopathic or sometimes a pill version, different ideas, sometimes herbals for parasites, their body did not want it. And when I retested them on the biomeridian, it did not pick up parasites. Now we were like, how's that possible? Because it takes months to get rid of parasites, but people volunteered. Somebody came back at a month, 2 months, 3 months, and a week, 2 weeks, and 3 weeks also. And their body still did not have parasites just from that one 30-minute treatment. Now, would that, stand the test with thousands of people? I do not know. But I did have a lady send me a picture within 6 hours out of being one of those 42 people wearing the WAVwatch. She sent me a picture of a foot-long parasite that had exited her body. So that was really the only proof I had. So anyway, all of this information about parasites and chelation is so interesting. We do have trouble with that. Someone also suggested a turpentine protocol for candida and to keep parasites at bay. So many things. We need to be doing more with parasites, but obviously the theme of today's was we need to be doing more with fungal, specifically the aspergillus. So don't forget, it's on your WAVwatch, and I specifically found the particular essential oils, the cloves, and there was one more, I've already forgotten it, that were the best for taking care of aspergillus, which is the most important problem, or it's the worst problem that we're having today. So unless there's anything else, good group today. Any other comments? All right. I'm going to say bye, and we'll see you again next week. Same time, same place.
Thank you.
Bye, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, thanks.